Yes, this is Dr. Fran Grace. I'm here with my friend Coleen Trimble. I met Coleen a couple of years ago. We're
Mhm.
both authors and we like the creative process in life, and we're very interested in the inner pathway, what happens in the inner realm of human beings. But I like talking to Colleen because she's not just stuck in the inside. She's very much had a whole life and career in the world of money, finance, and even Wall Street. So welcome, Colleen. I look forward to our conversation. I understand you grew up in a small Midwestern town. That
Yes,
sounds
ma'am.
interesting. Maybe we'll hear more about that. And that you married your high school sweetheart at a very early age, but it didn't last. There was a
Right,
divorce, and you went
right.
to college, got your Bachelor of Science, got your MBA, and then you took a position on Wall Street in a brokerage firm. You were one of the first few females as stockbrokers in the early 1980s. Yes.
Mhm. Right.
Wow. And then
Crazy.
after I bet I get we're going to hear about that some, I bet. And after 10 years of working with individuals and small businesses around finance and money, you began a 30-year consulting career advising large institutional clients and investing billions of dollars. That's just goes right over my head. Billions. I can't even imagine how much money that is. But it was the juxtaposition of your search to understand the power of money. I think we all can a little bit understand the power of money that it has in our lives, and you'll help us unpack that. It was that juxtaposition that you were searching for to understand that power of money and your own personal healing journey around money. And a word you use, empowerment, inner power, empowerment, those kinds of things. It's really captured your heart, your mind, and your soul, and brings us here today. And I really have been looking forward to this conversation. When you first told me that you had a dream in 1995. What is that, 30 years ago?
Mhm. Right at 30.
30 years ago. So right in the middle of your getting launched in your career, uh, a monk came to you in a dream
Mhm.
and was an impetus, gave you a message that was an impetus around the reclaiming of your power that you had given over to money, and identifying a visceral place that's inside that you call true inner abundance. So that dream, I'd like to start out there because, as you know, at our organization, we have a nonprofit named Inner Pathway, and we do dream workshops. We
Right.
we pay deep attention to what comes through dreams. Yours is extraordinary because it was so crystal clear and there was a distinct message that came to you. So, would you please tell us about that dream?
Yes, I'd love to. And Fran, thank you so much for this opportunity. You've meant a lot to me in the last 2 years, and I'm deeply appreciative of Spirit bringing us together
Yeah.
and all the input and wisdom I receive from you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Colleen. It's great to get to know you, and especially here to get to have you share something with others.
Thank you. Thank you. So, it was around Christmas season of 1995. And in the dream, kind of a crotchety elderly monk came to me. And I distinctly remember he was wearing this brown robe, sort of made out of gunny sack material. I don't know what else to call it. And I remember he had this belt and it was made out of rope and it was hanging below his belly. And his belly was, kind of voluminous and it was hanging below his belt. And he was short, sort of short, and he was bald. And as if we had been involved in this deep conversation, he said to me, the term bellular.
Hmm.
And I looked at him and I said, bellular? And then, rather condescendingly, like he was a little bit frustrated with me, he said, well, yes, holding beliefs at a cellular level. Well, I had never heard the term. much less the definition. So it was a dream that I have benefited really from the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
that was the dream.
Just in certain circles, we would call that an experience, and it really, it's so striking, the clarity of it, the vividness of it, that after 30 years, you remember it just like you would some experience in your life where you feel like you encountered what we call that other realm, that higher self, that that place with a capital, you know, it's very powerful. It has a certain spiritual power to it, spiritual energy of that kind of truth. That's what strikes me about it. And he's a monk, right? He's a, you know,
Right.
he's coming from the inner path, uh,
Right.
to give you, uniquely you, a message. Now, you had the dream, but then I think maybe you forgot it, and there was a certain point where you remembered the dream. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this was kind of interesting because I didn't remember the dream. It was completely out of my mind. And again, this was the Christmas season. And I remember I was on the highway driving to see my parents. And my parents live about 2 hours from me at that time. And so I was driving away, and I had remembered when I was driving that maybe week or two earlier, I had asked for a special Christmas gift. Now, that's not normally something I would do, but at that time I was needing a change in my life. And so I was asking for maybe a new relationship or a way to be of service or just something inspirational. I was needing something. So I said that prayer, and I had also kind of had forgotten about the prayer. But when I was in my car driving, it dawned on me. I thought, oh, well, here we go. Christmas has come and go. I didn't receive any special Christmas gift. Why do I set myself up for these disappointments? And as soon as I said that, Fran, it's like my heart started to beat, and the dream, the message, the monk, everything about it like fell into my awareness. And it didn't really matter at the time that I didn't know what it meant. It was because I could feel it at every cell of my being. And so even when I was driving, I remembered moving onto the interstate at that time. I was on a highway, then I moved onto the interstate, and I started sobbing, and I couldn't hardly see the cars in front of me. And I was sobbing because I felt remorse because of the doubt I had just expressed a few minutes earlier about, oh, okay, why do I set myself up for these things? And then number two, it was in such deep appreciation of what I knew to be a gift, even though I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
And then again, this was in 95. So I couldn't wait to get somewhere to look at a dictionary, right? And look up the term to see if it was there and to see what it meant. Well, I was going to my parents' house. They were elderly. They had gotten rid of their dictionaries. It was 1995. This is before Google, so I couldn't Google it. So I had to wait till I got back home in order to look it up in the dictionary. And I had mixed emotions about it. On one hand, it would have been delightful to have seen it in the dictionary between Belvedere and whatever other word was it would have fit between, because it would have validated the term and it would have validated the dream. On the other hand, my disappointment about that was really short-lived because when I couldn't find it in the dictionary, and then there was this excitement about, okay, what is this? What does it mean? And where do I go from here with it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's just so much in what you just shared that strikes me. Um, the power of an experience on the inside of us that's always there, but how easy it is to overlook it and we just go along our way, but in your case, you sort of surrendered. You surrendered something, and then then you remembered that you had gotten a gift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had a moment where you laid down what you had been striving toward, and I'm not sure people
That's
often do
true.
that. So I really admire that moment where you opened yourself to something deeper by letting go of what you had been holding on to. And then that opened up that had been there, and you listened to it. You respected it. You
Mm-hmm.
felt the energy of it. You were excited about it. You instinctively knew this is something powerful. I don't know what it means. And don't
Right.
you think that's true? We often, our mind can't grasp
Exactly.
what comes from the beyond or from the within. And I guess in the end, they're the same. So bellular, that's a unique term. As soon as you mentioned it to me, I caught the significance of it. Of course, I don't know what it means. The monk gave you a little hint of what it could mean,
Mm-hmm.
but can you share with us how has that term then been a touchstone for you and guided you?
Yes, and let me first say that once I got the term and once I knew it wasn't in the dictionary, I knew I wanted to start researching it, right? And so I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was not long. And I came across Candace Pert's book, Molecules of Emotion. So that was the first introduction. And just as a reminder, if someone is not familiar with her work, she did research in the 1970s, and she determined that emotions are the result of chemicals. Hence the title of the book, Molecules of Emotion. So that was my first indoctrination of, okay, there's something here. And then not long after that, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, I went to a workshop put on by uh, Bruce Lipton. And this was before his book, Biology of Belief, was published. It was still in manuscript form. And so I went to a workshop, and then at some point, I reached out to him and shared about the dream and the definition, which was holding beliefs at a cellular level. Well, he helped me understand that we don't hold beliefs at a cellular level. We actually express beliefs at a cellular level. And then I put two and two together via our emotions. So that's my new understanding and definition of what bellular means. It's expressing beliefs at a cellular level via our emotions. So once I kind of had that foundational understanding, I continued to research on the term and things, but it started a process for me of complete personal growth. I mean, I looked at beliefs in every area of my life. I also really began, took me quite a few years, but I began on this journey of truly understanding that it was crucial for us to look at our emotions and know that they are a true gift. And as the years went by, I started putting all these things together, but ultimately, Bellular really served to help move me inward to my authentic self and to my inner divine connection. So it's been very, very instrumental.
And you trademarked that term, bellular.
I did. I
Yeah, that
did.
must have been quite a process in itself.
I did do a lot of that work initially myself. It was interesting. I had trademarked another term, so this term was a little easier. But there are some hoops you have to go through, and some money you have to pay, and some what's called specimens that you have to provide. And in fact, this term is up for renewal. So um, it's been at least, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years since I first trademarked it. I've lost track as to how many years it's been, but it's been quite a while.
I think it shows the significance it's worth a trademark, and it's that you've given some attention to something that came as a message, I think, that was given uniquely to you. There was something about your life journey that was meant to integrate
Hmm.
these different things. And because of your finance career, you were in the world of money. This is where the bellular dynamic or process, whatever you want to call it, is playing out. So I know you've done so much work, and you're writing a book about the power of money, healing with money, and what you call, is it inner abundance? Is that what you're
Uh,
calling it?
yes.
So can you walk us through something around how the term bellular, your healing process with it, relates to this realm of money where you've spent so much of your life?
Yeah, I have just been immersed in money for 40 years and counting, both professionally and personal. And it's like it's been an inner guidance, but it's an inner drive to somehow understand money. And so let me just describe how I think money can be a healing path, and then I can explain a little bit more uh, about the application here in a minute. But so there are so many mixed messages about money and about power and about emotion. And those mixed messages and our relationship with money and how we understand what money means and what money represents to the culture, all of those things can become what I call shadows. And these shadows can obstruct our inner truth and light. I want to be clear, it's not about money being a bad thing. I'm not against money. I love money. But in order to be truly empowered, at least what I found is that I had to work through a lot of the cultural assumptions about money that aren't really true. And then I had to do my own work, of course. So money can be a healing path when we actually use those challenges that come up around money to help us reclaim our personal power
Can you give an
rather than,
example? Can you give an example? Like in
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
life, like what was a moment or something that you faced that was difficult that you healed through, I guess?
Yeah, I thank you for the question because I love to give examples, and I can say I have examples of this all the time. I mean, I still am working with this, so it's not like it's a one and done deal. But I would say early in the 80s when I was a broker, I was working for a Wall Street firm, but I was actually based in Kansas City, and the um, there was a I saw a discontinuity between how we think about money or how we're taught to think about money, how the traditional way of teaching people about money is very different than how we actually feel about money. So here I had an MBA, I had some of the best training that Wall Street could offer, and yet I found that I was emotionally disempowered by money. And at that particular time, it was because I believed that I was not as worthy as my rich clients. And, that went back to childhood stuff and other things. But I believe that a lot of people deal with that, but I think it's so deeply embedded within our unconscious that we don't really think about that. And another time, I haven't experienced this for quite some time, but something else that I always captivated me was I would some fear, or if I had fear or uncertainty or anxiety about money, it manifested physically. So I would feel like there were these boulders being piled upon my chest, and I couldn't breathe, and my heart constricted. And however, I got to the point where I knew it wasn't a heart attack because I knew it was my money attack. And it was that place where my body really went into overdrive when I had some sort of conflict about money. So it was an opportunity for me because I was able to work through some very deep um, emotions and fears and insecurities about money. And ultimately, I'm just giving you two examples, but ultimately, everything that I worked through was bringing me into my own power, into my own personal place of power, which ultimately connected me to my inner truth. And then what I will call this inner place of abundance.
It's very powerful. I think everybody listening can relate to the emotions wrapped up in the beliefs that we have, but they're relating to it because you're talking about it. You're bringing it to consciousness. Probably most of us walk around not even aware of these beliefs we hold or express about money. We just kind of go through our life seeking it or running from it or having all these unprocessed emotions about it. So you're bringing to the surface, probably for the listeners right now, oh yeah, I felt that way before, you know?
And Fran, I think the in the healing community, if you've been on a personal growth path for the last 25, 30 years, we've all, I think, done a lot of belief work, which has been very powerful work. But what I think has been missing, and what I think particularly around money, what's been issue, is connecting it to these challenging emotions that we feel. And so I think that's a layer of work that it does take some dedication, to feel it and to be willing to embrace it and to work through it. But as your mentor, Dr. David Hawkins, wrote in his book, Letting Go, it's also a degree of embracing the emotion and letting it go, because it will transform on its own.
Very powerful. Yes, he has a whole chapter related to issues around wealth and money and work and that side of our life. And well, do you want to tell us about your book? So I think that your book that you've been working on, it brings together a whole career. I mean, you're knowledgeable, okay? I mean, it's not like we're picking up a book written about money by somebody that just sort of, has a bank account and does a few investments. I mean, you have been immersed as an expert in that world and uniquely given your whole life. I know Coleen is dedicated to healing and growth and understanding things on this much deeper level. So your book is going to be very unique in bringing all of this, integrating it. So can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yes, and I will preface this by saying that it's not about financial literacy. In other words, how to save money, how to invest money, how to budget. There's a multitude of good books out there about that information. I'm feeling that this is more about helping people, first of all, get to some sort of a truly empowered place with money that doesn't just rely on an amount of money. So my working title is The Shadows of Money. And the subtitle is What to Do When Money Has Replaced Inner Abundance. So the idea is, and the book is about, there are 5 cultural paradigms that I found when I was doing my own work, and across professionally and personally, 5 cultural paradigms that I believe contribute to money's illusion of power, and that through embracing the fears and anxieties that come up when we talk about the power of money, that becomes a pathway to this true inner abundance that is something we all hold within us, and we just have to chip away sometimes to get to it. So maybe just give you a brief description of each of the 5. Do we have time for that? Is that something we should do?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'll make this real brief.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Summary.
there are these 5 cultural paradigms, and one of them is cultural configuration. And that's the idea that the culture itself revolves around money. Now, we can debate as to what we think it actually revolves around, but hey, we are a capitalistic society, so it pretty much revolves around money. But there's also a lot of mixed messages, as I said earlier, about money, power, and emotion. So we're going to attack it from the idea that if you live in a culture and it's got a cultural configuration, it takes a little bit to break out of that, right? So you're going to come up against some walls. And trust me, I've come up against a lot of walls. But that's one. The other idea is the idea of concrete money. What I mean by that is we assume, we believe that money is this concrete thing. It's not a thing. Money is a concept. It's an agreement. Everybody has to be in agreement for it to work. So if you're working with a concept like that, that means it opens the doors for a lot of different beliefs and meanings. So to me, that makes it actually not less powerful, because in the US, we do have a powerful dollar, and the Fed helps sustain it, but it should open the door for us to questioning our own beliefs about it and where we give power away. That's the main reason for that. The third one is this idea of rational economics. And the idea is that in economics, money is rational. Well, it's not. Money is actually a social science. It's not a hard science. And so we've kind of made money exist at this one level, which is a transactional level. But when we start really delving into a holistic way of being, which a lot of us are on, that are wanting personal growth, we realize that money has different levels. And there's that emotional level, and there's also a spiritual level at some point. So that was number 4. That's number 3. And then number 4 is this idea that we are a culture that denies emotion. And it's so interesting to me because we know emotion exists. Some of us are pretty darn emotional, but yet there's a denial and there's an inference that emotion is not something to be, it hasn't even been studied to that degree until very recently. So that's a whole nother realm when it comes to money. And because if you are in denial about your emotional relationship with money, you're going to be in denial about what money means to you. That's huge.
And that would be the case, for example, that we hear about of billionaires who end up ending their life because they lost something in the stock market, or something tanked in their portfolio, like they had put so much emotional value and personal value onto how much money was in the bank, that even though they still had a lot,
Yeah.
they couldn't emotionally process that they were still like okay, because
Right.
that's like tragic to not be in touch with the emotionality of money and to be so affected that you
Yes.
would end your life
Yes.
because of a change in your financial circumstances. I mean,
Hmm.
that always baffles me, those cases, but that's what comes up when I hear
Yeah.
your fourth step there.
And just to add on to that, I was speaking once at a conference, and I was sitting at a lunch table with a man who had just sold his business for $100 million. And he asked me what I was going to speak about, and I said something about finding peace with money or something like that. And he said, I doubt that I'll ever find peace with money. And he had just sold his company for $100 million. That just,
Wow.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Crazy.
Wow.
Anyway, and then the last one that I'll work with is this whole idea of inner versus outer power, and how do we define power? And by deconstructing some of these ways that money isn't the illusion of power, we can start to reclaim some of that back for ourselves. And then I'll work in my work with Bellular in terms of understanding the emotions around some of these issues. So I'll work that in with the exercises that I offer in the book.
Well, I love exercises, as a teacher, professor who worked with college students. It wasn't just reading a book, it was doing
No,
work. So,
that's right. That's right. Well, that's how I've learned too. That's how I'm so grateful for all the authors that have gone before in terms of, their writings and learning from them. And I'm one of those people that it's like a book falls off the shelf and oh yeah, that's for me. So I'm with you. I love the exercises, and I think that when you bring an intention to learn and to get whatever you're supposed to get from that book, and through an exercise, even though it says one thing, you may come to a completely different understanding, but it's something that can awaken you, open you, and move you to the next step.
wow. Well, Coleen, it's absolutely a joy to get to hear from you today. Uh, I've never actually done this. I've never actually talked to somebody like this.
I'm touched.
Somebody that I'd known, and maybe it'll be a new way of moving forward in some way, but I just really appreciate the openness that you've had to what life has opened up for you. On the inside, I always start on the inside, the dream that came, and you got the message,
Mm-hmm.
and you've honored the preciousness of it by living it out, and struggling
Yes.
with your healing work around all these issues. These are really not what what does Dr. Hawkins say in his Letting Go book? This is not for sissies or something.
No, that is true.
This inner work is, you got to really have a certain real strength to take it on, and you do, and you have a wonderful creative spirit, and we look forward to seeing what happens here. So thank you for sharing, Coleen. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I will say thank you again, Fran, for this opportunity. I'm touched that you offered to do this, and I would just encourage anyone who hears this to consider using money as a healing path. It's unexpected. It was unexpected for me, but because money is so prevalent in our lives, it really makes a lot of sense. And the one way you could start doing that is if you feel a negative or challenging emotion with money, just start embracing it, start feeling it, and allow it. Just don't run from it, and see what transpires. That's a very brief
Wow.
suggestion, but it'll work.
Wow. Well, can people reach out to you if they have questions?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. You can email me at this is a different email, so it's Coleen, Coleen, Trimble, Trimble 56 at gmail.com. So Coleen Trimble 56 at gmail.com. Now you know how old I am.
Oh, well, we're not counting.
Oh, I'm just teasing. I don't care.
I know you don't care.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wonderful invitation to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful. For that, they can really start now working with something by noticing the feeling they have with money, because it in our hand, it's in our purse, it's on our iPhone. It's everywhere. Well,
yeah, and also, I'm sorry, Fran, one more last quick thing. Also, if they don't have a feeling, acknowledge if they're in denial of a feeling. That might be another way to twist that and to look at it.
Oh, yeah. Very good. There's a feeling under there somewhere.
Somewhere. It's there.
Well, Coleen, it's been delightful. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you, Fran. I appreciate you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.